He has his webpage on the virtual agilecoach.co.uk. He started his YouTube channel about 5 months ago, I read, and has already hit over 500 subscribers. So that shows he's got a good base in the things he has been doing before, and is also presenting some good material. He does some fun retrospectives, and Chris, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about these. For example, your Simpson retrospective. It looks like a fun thing. And I've also seen you talking about agile heroes. So my agile hero at this moment, is our testing guy in a project I've been on. He's toughed it out through over 2 years of the same project and 29 sprints, and sees light at the end of the tunnel after our first release. So maybe you'll have a comment or two about that situation. It's interesting, amusing, maybe sad in a way. Now we have only 1 hour, and I know there will be questions at the end. So without further ado, I will ask Chris, who is your agile hero, and turn it over to you for the rest of this presentation.
So my agile hero, great question. I asked this of Ari van Bennekom and a few others recently as part of the Agile 20 Reflect Festival. And I think it's a wonderful question to ask. My personal agile hero would be Lisa Adkins of Agile Coaching fame, the book she's released. I've got it on my shelf just over there. And the reason is she's got this human focused, compassionate side about her that it's always focusing on the human first. I'm someone who's been saying for a long time that if we really care about people, we need to stop referring to them as resources. And I hate that there's this archaic project management term where people are referred to as a resource. A resource to me is a pen, it's a bit of paper, it's a desk, it's a chair. And the fact that we refer to people as resources dehumanizes them. But yeah, that's my agile hero. Now, obviously, I've got involved today. I was speaking with Garima on LinkedIn. She's obviously seen some of the things that I've been sharing. I'm a big believer in gamification, in making work fun. My profession is as an agile coach, and I did a retrospective recently, actually, a Valentine's Day themed retrospective, obviously being very topical. It's that time of the year. And one of the questions was, when did Cupid's arrow strike you relating to agile? So when did you first fall in love? And for me, it was back in 2012 when I got my first hands-on exposure to agile. I'd learned about it at university, but I got my first experience with it when I was working with this third-party development team that were building a new mobile front end, and they were doing it in agile. And I knew what it was, but I'd never experienced it. And I had this disconnect where I was trying to translate these waterfall style requirements and way of working that the consultancy I was working for had to this agile way of working, and it just made sense. Why wouldn't you want to do things iteratively, break them into smaller chunks, see value frequently, learn from what you're doing? So I fell in love with agile back then. Now, onto the topic of today, gamification. I've shared a Miro board on the chat. I'll share it once more for anyone who hasn't jumped on there yet. If you can make your way there, that will be wonderful. I'm also going to, if I'm permitted to, share my screen, just in case for anyone who can't get on Miro. So the topic is gamification, and it was alluded to a moment ago when we started talking about retrospectives. Gamification can come in many forms. I think I've got a rogue thing that's moved there. I need to move that back across. There we go. So why, in terms of the agenda, we're going to cover why gamify content. So a little bit about why I do it. We're going to ask a little bit about you. We're then going to allow you guys to choose a game, an agile game that we're going to play. I will facilitate, and then we're going to actually play that game. And then obviously I always aspire to leave people with actionable takeaways from any meetup, talk, or any event I'm involved in. I want to leave people with things they can actually take away and do in their working lives to use, to be of value. In terms of structure, it will be a little less me talking at you and a little bit more interactive, and that's always been my style. I'm not the sort of person who just passively exposes people to PowerPoint decks. I'd rather engage people in a discussion, so there's no kind of formal time at the end for questions. It'll be more of an interactive discussion throughout. So why use gamification techniques? Multiple reasons here, and these are the main 5 I've put on. To keep things fresh. You know, with particular agile ways of working, obviously agile and DevOps go hand in hand very well. It tends to be people work in sprints and you're just repeating over and over, and it can become a little bit stale. So I gamify things to keep things interesting. I gamify things to provide a more tangible experience. When you're just being told something on a slide deck, it doesn't feel as real. And then importantly, the next part, to promote engagement. When you involve people in a discussion, when you play games with them, they're more likely, I find, to learn. And there's a great quote, I believe it's attributed to Benjamin Franklin, where if you tell someone something, they'll forget. If you teach someone something, they may remember, but if you involve them, they'll learn. And that's one of the main reasons I gamify it, because I find when I involve people, they're more engaged and they tend to learn more. They tend to take things away. I find gamification helps provoke different thinking. You can use abstract examples or abstract ways of teaching concepts. For example, I've had people in a room and I've been teaching them what technical debt is through placing chairs in their path as they move back and forth, trying to move post-it notes to one side of the room and to the other, to demonstrate what happens when you allow technical debt to build up. And as the game progresses and as they forget about technical debt, more and more chairs get put in the way, and it slows things down. And this is contextualizing in an abstract way what happens when people forget about technical debt in the software world. It slows things down. And last of all, because I'm a firm believer that work can be fun. Yeah, it's particularly if you're doing retrospectives and things like that, they can get into this habit of being, what did we do last time? What are we going to do next time? And it can get a bit stale and boring. So just by gamifying things, by using abstract concepts, by putting a little bit of creativity in there, it can be enjoyable. And that comes to the Simpsons retrospective. I've done a Queen rock band theme retrospective, Star Trek, Star Wars, Friends. I create a new retrospective theme every week and I share it on LinkedIn, and everyone can access it. It's freely accessible. It's often using a Miro board, and then people can just grab that and try that with their teams. And I get so much good feedback from doing that, because people love doing things in different ways. So that's why I gamify things, why I gamify content. Now, before we start playing any games, I'd like to learn a little bit about you guys. So on this board here, I'm just going to bring your attention to a certain place on this board. Where has that gone? I'm sure I placed something here earlier. In terms of using Miro, if you're not familiar with using it, in order to add an emoji on your left-hand navigation panel, if you can see my screen, you press the three little dots here, and then you can scroll down and you can see an emoji. And what I'd like you guys to do is, by way of emoji, I'd like you to share what you feel about gamification. So I've just added a random cat shocked face one here. Do you guys just grab an emoji from that list and share what you feel about gamification? And let me know if you have any issues accessing those emojis, and I'll help out.
I don't seem to be able to get in.
So in the left-hand navigation panel, there's three little dots below what looks like a pen icon. And if you press that and you scroll down, you'll see emojis beneath the grid. And once you press that, you can search, or you can search by typing, or you can just scroll down and find something that you feel represented. I can see someone's put on a little smiley face here, so I'll make that a bit larger. We've got a dancing emoji. We've got another smiley. So there's a couple of, in general, relatively happy themed emojis. All right, while we're waiting for others to do that, have you guys played any agile games? And if you have, double click these post-it notes, double left click, and you can type inside those post-it notes. I'd love to hear what games you've already played. If you haven't, that's okay. I'll introduce you to a couple if we have time, at least one today.
I'm not able to access the pen. Is there a trick? Was I supposed to?
Access the pen, you said?
No, I can't. It doesn't. When I click on it, nothing happens.
So make sure on the far left-hand side of the navigation panel, you've got the blue icon, the blue cursor at the top selected.
Yep.
And then if you double click any post-it note, you should be able to type.
Okay.
So the white post-it note's in the middle there.
Yeah. I don't know why my doesn't seem to That's right.
That's fine. Just if you've played a game, let me know. You can say out loud. It doesn't have to be in silence.
Okay, that's cool.
So someone's used Retromat. Yeah, that's a great resource, a website where you can just go and randomly select a retro format. There's a few websites like that out there. Random Retros does it too, I think. All right, so we've got a little bit of experience with Agile games, and in general, a relatively happy theme about gamification. So here's where you guys get to decide which game we play. And obviously, being Valentine's Day a few days away, I've used these heart emojis. This is how we're going to dot vote. So there's two games for you guys to choose from: Agile Battleships, which is a game that will teach you or teach around the importance of fast feedback loops. And then the second game is Outcomes versus Outputs. So it will be a game where I'll get you drawing something. There'll be split in different teams, and you'll be drawing something to a couple of different briefs, and then we'll be discussing the difference between outcomes versus outputs. So the way you vote is you just drag one of those little heart emojis to whichever game you're most interested in playing, and the one with the most hearts wins. So left click, and you can drag as you please. All right, so we've got one for Agile Battleships, one for Outcomes versus Outputs. Oh, I have not locked that down. Let me fix that. Apologies. Accidentally moved the frame. There we go. Let's just lock that for a second. There we go. All right, so at the moment it's 2 for Battleships. If anyone isn't able to move these things, just share your vote by verbally, and we can make sure it's incorporated. Well, it's even 2 each at the moment. Are we going to have a decider? Otherwise, I'm just going to have to pick one.
Excuse me, I missed that. What are we supposed to do in this slide?
Yeah. So if I bring everyone to where I am, look. You've got 2 games to choose from: Agile Battleships, which is about feedback loops, the importance of feedback loops.
Yep.
And what's going to be called a lovey-dovey Valentine's scene is a game about outcomes versus outputs. So you have the ability to choose which game you most want to play, and the way you do so is you drag one of these little emoji hearts onto the game you want to play most.
Thank you.
All right, that looks like the decider. So we're going to play outcomes versus outputs game. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring everyone to the section of the board we're going to be playing this game in. Now, whenever I do any sort of game, the first thing I do is I look to ensure I understand where people currently are with regards to the concept. And this is about part of connecting people to the subject matter. So what I'd like you guys to do is, in these Post-it notes here, I'd love you guys to share what you understand an outcome to be versus what an output is. So again, if you double click the Post-it notes and share what you understand outputs versus outputs are, outcomes versus outputs are. Obviously, this sets the context, just to make sure we understand where we are to start with.
Did you say with Post-it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, double click the yellow Post-it notes and share your thoughts on what those 2 things are.
Okay.
All right, so we've got some things coming down for outcomes: perceived value, outcomes being tied to KPIs, they're measurable. Outcomes of business values delivered, they could be ROIs or revenues, they're results. Interesting, someone's also put results for an output. An output are the products delivered throughout the process. Okay, any more thoughts about what outputs are? Okay, so we've got people saying the outputs are services or processes, products, the products delivered, or a piece of software change, or a car manufactured, are examples of outputs. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about what outcomes and outputs are. Now we're going to play a game to contextualize outputs and outcomes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring everyone again once more to the section of the board we are. What we're going to do is we're trying to break each other up into groups. So let me just check. I'm trying to bring back, how many people do we have? How many participants do we have? I'll get my screen to open back up. I just wasn't sharing. Is it 7?
Jerry here. My computer doesn't interact with your screen for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh, very odd. Okay, what we're going to do is if we can get people to put their names against Team Mario or Team Pac-Man. So we need, kind of 2 or 3 people in Team Mario.
Quick question, Chris, should we have set up with Miro prior to joining this today?
No.
Because as I tried to authenticate, after about 10 attempts, I just came back to you. It wouldn't recognize the password I had just set up.
Okay, so interesting. You shouldn't need to. What the link I've given you should be freely accessible to anyone. You shouldn't need to create an account.
Okay, then maybe that's what's happened. We got forced to set up an account, and we're stuck in a non-interactive mode. Okay, well, I'll try another launch of the screen.
Okay. Yeah, you should. I can see there's 6 people on here. So we've got the majority in the board. Yeah, maybe if you just try and refresh with a new I don't know, incognito window or something, and join without signing up, you should just be able to freely interact. There's no required setup ahead of tonight. It should be an infinitely accessible whiteboard. All right, so I'm going to move Hanan to Team Pac-Man because I need someone in Team Pac-Man. We've got Monica and Carl in Team Mario. Who else do we have? I can't seem to get my Zoom back in. Hang on, where's the participants? There we go.
On our participants, Chris, we have 8 participants on the Zoom, so maybe not all of them made it into your Miro board.
So we've got, I can see 7 on the Miro board. So we should have a team of a 3 and a 4. So could we have Jerry join Team Pac-Man? Is that okay?
Yeah, I can't get really. I don't know how to get to the Miro side of things. I'm sorry. I've been trying. Now, was I supposed to do something, or?
All you should need to do is open up that link I sent in the Zoom chat, and then it should just be a whiteboard that you're able to access freely.
Okay, where's Zoom chat? I'm sorry, I didn't see that part.
It's in the chat window for Zoom, which.
Okay. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
I've put you in Team Pac-Man. Bill, can I have you in Team Mario? That's all right.
You're on mute, Bill.
And
you said Team Mario?
Yeah, Bill, you're in Team Mario, and Will, I'll put you in Team Pac-Man. Is that okay? Yeah. And have we got anyone else who hasn't got a team yet?
I think I'm not included yet.
Okay, I'm going to put you. Is that Sriram?
Yep. Yeah.
I'm going to put you against Team Pac-Man.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. So, if you basically scroll down on your screen, what we're going to have is there's a separate space for Team Mario. Team Mario are here. Everyone there. So everyone in Team Mario, stay there. And then everyone in Team Pac-Man is going to be here. All right. So move to your appropriate spaces. And what you're going to have is 3 minutes to draw as per the brief that's written on your screen. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to read it out because I don't really want you guys thinking about each other's briefs. But the objective is to draw. Don't start yet until I start a timer. So I'm just going to delete what you've drawn there. The objective is to draw what that brief says. So the game is called a lovey-dovey Valentine's scene. So obviously you're drawing something Valentine's-esque, but one team is going to have an output-focused brief and one's going to have an outcome-focused brief. And you've got 3 minutes to do it, and you're supposed to do so silently, so there's no talking. So you want to do it independently of one another. But you can see what's happening on the screen, so you can see what's happening, who's drawing what, and obviously respond in that way. And once the game's finished, we're then going to discuss how it felt and what we learned, and we're going to have a look at each other's results. Is everyone clear on what we're doing there?
Clear as mud.
Can I clear it up further for you?
No, you're asking me to draw.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the fun one. There's going to be some awful drawings, and there always is, but no one's judging you on your drawing skills here. This is purely a bit of fun, a bit of a way of just finding out what happens when you have outcomes versus outputs.
Okay, all right.
All right. So if everyone's happy, make sure you're at your appropriate team space. So those in Team Mario should be on the Team Mario section. You've got a brief, and those at Team Pac-Man should be the Team Pac-Man section. And again, I'm going to make sure I've deleted everything. No drawing yet. And I will start the timer for 3 minutes, and you will work in silence to do so. So 3, 2, 1, go. Draw away. And you draw with the pen icon on the left-hand side there. There's like or you can press P on your keyboard, and that will allow you to start drawing things.
Chris, what team was I in? I'm sorry.
So what was your name?
Jerry. Sorry.
Jerry, you're in Pac-Man.
Pac-Man.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Lovey-dovey.
And just a reminder, no one's drawing skills are on show here. It's not anything about that.
Oh, color.
So someone's being cheeky and using emojis. Right, you've got less than a minute to go. 50 seconds.
That's me with the emojis. I did similar game, and my teachers was using emojis, and I learned that from them. It's hard really to draw with the mouse.
But it is indeed, yeah. It's supposed to be difficult. Last 15 seconds, and then we're going to have a look at and share what everyone's come up with. All right, time's up. Stop drawing. Okay. So I'm going to bring everyone to Team Mario, and we'll see what they've come up with. So their brief was draw a lovey-dovey Valentine's scene complete with hearts, cupids, chocolates, candy, flowers, and a couple. So we've got We've got a bit of candy. We've got what looks like a bow and arrow. We've got some hearts. We've got some flowers. We've got a grid that I suppose is a chocolate bar. We've got a couple more hearts. Okay. And then if we go to Team Pac-Man, they've been using emojis, and we've got looks like boxes of chocolates. We've got some hearts saying I heart you, a couple of more emojis, some more flowers. And their brief was draw a lovey-dovey Valentine's scene with a cherub cupid with blonde hair firing arrows at a couple, 3 red boxes of chocolates, 4 blue boxes of chocolates, a bouquet of white roses, a bouquet of pink roses, a bouquet of red roses, 3 yellow candy hearts saying forever yours, 5 blue candy hearts saying be mine, and 2 pink candy hearts saying I heart you. Now, which brief do we think that was? Do we think it was outputs or outcomes?
It was outputs.
Outputs, yeah. Now, I've played this game in many different flavors. It was traditionally known, and I would do it face to face with people on paper, and you get them crowded around a bit of paper, and they'd be drawing a beautiful summer meadow. And in this summer meadow, there would be, you know, cows and flowers and the sun in the top right-hand corner, and so on and so forth. And I've done it in a spooky Halloween scene where they're drawing ghosts and gravestones and pumpkins and all sorts of things like that. I've done it as a Christmas scene as well, where they've got trees and a mantle place and stockings hanging down and all sorts of things like that. Now, the vast majority of the times when we do this, especially when it's hand drawn, what you'll find is in the output focused one, people end up just drawing, they focus on the detail so much that they forget that actually what they were trying to draw was a Valentine's scene. So it ends up being this discombobulated mess or focus on just these blue things with 5 petals and so on and so forth, or whatever it may be. And what ends up happening is the outcome focused brief, where it's not so prescriptive, you get a bit more creative license. So people start adding things in that aren't even there, and they do end up focusing on something that ends up looking a bit more like a scene, a Valentine's scene. So we come back to the debrief section of this game, where we can talk through.
So, excuse me. So, are you saying that by outlining the requirements upfront, you limit the creativity?
So, what I'm saying is that, from my perspective, when I'm coaching software teams or I'm coaching teams in general, I want them to be presented with problems or outcomes to solve, not to be given just a solution. So, if you think, how does it feel to wake up in the morning and just work through 10 Jira tickets that are very specific and you've got no creativity to it, you're just a drone delivering that. It's not very motivating. It's actually quite frustrating unless you particularly enjoy just doing those tasks. The majority of people I find, they prefer to be given, right, here's a problem that I can solve. And actually there's 5 ways of delivering or solving that problem. And I know from my experience, this is the best way of doing it. So it's more motivating doing that. It's giving people autonomy to work in the way they feel is best. And I find it's far more motivating. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you're working with teams, try and present them with outcomes and problems to solve rather than solutionize everything. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't specify some specifics every now and then. You want to have stories with acceptance criteria, so we know the boundaries of what we're delivering to. There's got to be a clear purpose and a why that the teams are delivering something. But what we don't want to do is specify it down to the exact level of detail and rob people of the ability to be creative. This is actually why concepts like hackathons, and that have obviously grown in popularity over the past few years, or past 5 years or so, work really well, because teams are given this freedom, this creative license to solve problems. And the consequence of a lot of these hackathons are releases of software or deliveries of products that wouldn't have been given the prioritized time to focus on. So I think famously the Facebook like button came as a consequence of a hackathon. The Amazon, it used to be when you were on Amazon and you were trying to buy a product, the kind of buy button was much lower down the page, and as a result of a hackathon, they changed it to be right close to the top. And that simple change meant that they generated so much more revenue because it was easier from a customer's experience perspective to purchase rather than have to scroll to find it. So to answer your question, I'm trying to get people to think and focus on the outcome that needs to be solved and not the specific solution.
Okay, thank you. I'm
Is there
still
any other-
not really sure. I'm still not really sure about the specification of the requirement and the limitation of the creativity, but I guess with the debrief, this would make sense to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. So there's a few questions I've got here, and you don't have to do it on post notes. We could talk in an open discussion if you prefer. So how did it feel playing that game without the ability to communicate?
Crappy.
Sorry?
Crappy.
Okay, yeah. I guess you didn't know what you were working on versus someone else. You just had to wait and see what they were working on and then choose something else to work on. You weren't
And the things I was working on, I didn't know how to do them very well, so I couldn't ask for help either.
Yeah. So there's that as a challenge. Someone's writing, everyone was focused probably on different things and their own task rather than the common goal of, right, I'm drawing this at the moment, perhaps you should draw that, and then we'll be almost done with this. And yeah, again, coming back to the other game, which is all about feedback loops, the ability to discuss things as you go along helps provide that feedback loop. A lack of a common goal, yeah, you kind of knew you were drawing something and you had a time frame, but it wasn't a common goal, you're just individually drawing. Yeah, no collective creativity, it was just drawing what you saw. Okay, what did you guys observe whilst playing the game? Any observations of waste or dysfunction beyond the inability to communicate?
I was too busy focusing on my job to watch anybody else. And so everyone was probably the same situation, and there was no reason to watch everyone else because you couldn't communicate. So you just did your own thing.
Yeah.
That's my feeling.
So I played this game with the theme being a beautiful summer meadow, and you end up with the output focus brief. It looks so much less like a scene. You end up with cows flying in the sky, and then flowers here, there, and everywhere. It looks far less like the outcome you were looking to deliver to. And this can be very similar when you're just given a list of specific things to deliver to. You forget about the outcome. You get so focused on the detail that you forget about what problem you were trying to solve to begin with. Being so focused on the detail can mean that you lose focus on the bigger picture.
So what is the first part of this statement you focus on?
So I was saying that by being so focused on the detail, the specific things, so using the example of the output focus brief here, you had 4 blue boxes of chocolates, 3 candy hearts saying forever yours. You were so focused on the specific detail of each one that you probably forgot that actually what the outcome was drawing a lovely-dovey Valentine's scene. That was what the game was all about.
Okay.
All right, so people weren't sure if they were doing the same thing, so there was some redundancy of effort. Everyone started on the detail. You weren't observing one another. Okay, so how can you enable those you work with, or going back into your working lives? How can you focus on being more outcome focused back at work? Someone's written down swarming, so obviously everyone clustering around the same piece of work rather than working independently on lots of little individual tickets. Having a clear vision, absolutely. Being aware of the big picture, this is where in Agile, a product owner comes in. They're there to articulate the vision, the why, what this means for our customers, why it is we're building it, and that helps provide the team with that clear sense of vision. And then they can ask questions and probe and make sure they understand it. And then when they're happy, they can accept it and start working on it and think of ways to deliver to that. Yeah, talking to each other, alignment across the team members. This is where common ceremonies like sprint planning and backlog refinement really help. All right, last question then. What support do you need to enable you to be more outcome focused as well? So we've talked about how you can do it, but is there anything missing? What support do you need to enable you to be more outcome focused? And commonly in this one, I'm hearing things like engaging and educating stakeholders on the fact that we don't want to be given solutions. A common problem I see is that a product owner is told, right, this is what you've got to deliver, rather than this is the problem we need solving. T-shaped teams, yeah, T/E-shaped teams. Breakout rooms and discussions. Clear roles and responsibilities by the looks of it. All right, I'm conscious we've got about 14 minutes left of the session. So what I want to do is bring you guys to a section where we can talk about some actionable takeaways. The other game, by the way, if anyone is interested in playing it, is called Agile Battleships. And it's, if you follow the link on this Mario board, which is here, if you click this box UK where it says Agile Battleships, if you click that, it will take you to a website. This will enable you to play this game with a team. And the way this game works is in the same way the traditional Battleships game is played, where you're going up against people and you're saying, well, I choose A1 and A2, etc., etc. And in the real game, once you've said a grid reference, you're told immediately if it hit or not, or if it's missed. In this game, what it does is in the first round, you have 30 shots, 30 attempts to sink these ships, and you'll guess how many ships you think you can sink. And you have 30 shots, but in the first round, you have no idea if they've hit or not. Now, the challenge with that is delayed feedback. It means that you do 30 shots, but you don't know if you hit any until the end. And because of that, you don't get that fast feedback, that ability to say, oh, A2 was a hit. We know it could be A3 or A1. So by losing that feedback loop, you lose the ability to deliver and complete something. And in the second round, you play it in the traditional way where you do get that instant feedback and you can compare and contrast the number of ships you sank and how it felt playing that. For most, it was very frustrating not seeing the results of what you're doing. And you can compare it to that traditional waterfall way of doing things. If you think about waterfall delivery, the way it used to be is you would start designing a piece of software, and you'd start building it, and only once you built everything would you test it. And that's a long feedback loop. That could be months before someone's testing it. And then months later, it gets in front of testers and they say, oh, that's not quite it. And you've got to start something all over again. And that delayed feedback loop results in, it could be months before something's actually released in front of a customer and then gaining some value. So it's a very quick and easy game to play. And it's really great to highlight the importance of fast feedback loops. And obviously Agile and DevOps working hand in hand. Agile is built around these fast feedback loops. A daily stand-up enables you to pivot with your team towards your common goal based on what you've learned from the previous day. So you can cluster around and say, well, I need support with this, or I'm almost finished with this, I could do a little bit of help. It allows you to influence the future, and that's a fast feedback loop. Retrospective, every time frame your team does it in enables you to sit down and think about what's going well or what isn't going well, or whatever theme you may use. That's a feedback loop as the team to adjust and continuously learn. There's lots of ways that Agile and DevOps work together to build in fast feedback loop. Right, so actionable takeaways, bringing you guys to a close. These are my things that I would like to leave you with. There are so many resources out there for serious games for learning. There's lots of websites that I recommend. There's Tasty Cupcakes is a very familiar one. I began using Tasty Cupcakes years and years ago. There's my own website. I create lots of these Miro Agile games, and I share them as free downloadable templates. So if you want to try one with the team, you're welcome to do so. Play 14 is a mixture of a community and a conference where they play these serious games and they create new ones and share them as well. And then also the Miroverse. If you're familiar with Miro, they've got their own list or archive of templates, community shared. So someone will create one, share it, it becomes available. You can access it free as well, and you can play those games with others. it's important to just mention here that gamification won't work for everyone. You know, I primarily use gamification when I'm teaching concepts, but there are people who prefer to read and digest material that way. Some people prefer it for a discussion. Some people prefer to do it on the job in their workflow. Gamification is just one option you have, and I find it's one that works pretty well. Some people just don't, it doesn't resonate with them, and that's okay. They may have their own preferred learning style. Some people are very visual and they want to do it in a different way. That's okay. Sorry, was someone adding something there?
What are you doing?
Another point here, humans love escapism. So think about how much people love movies and reading books and things like that. The same applies for a game. So it's just a different way of, through abstract terms, teaching a concept, and people enjoy it, so embrace it. Another point I'd like to make is that you don't have to just use games. There's lots of ways of extending and enabling engagement beyond just learning styles. You can create your own team language. So I know some teams like to use specific team names. I've seen Marvel team names, Game of Thrones team names, Disney character team names, all sorts. You don't have to just use gamification. You could create your own team language. So as an example, we've got a little image here. For anyone who's familiar with Marvel, you've got Hulk, who's this big character. You've got Ant-Man, who's tiny. So when it comes to, for example, doing story points with a team, rather than saying, oh, this is a 1, you can say, oh, that's an Ant-Man, and this 13, that's a Hulk, right? It depends on your team's microculture. Every team has their own microculture, their own preferred way of doing things, their own individual idiosyncrasies and styles. Allow them to embrace that as well, and just create your own team language. Again, I find it helps build engagement and good teamwork. And lastly, a little creativity goes a long way. So honestly, what do you have to lose? I have seldom found a situation where I've tried something new, tried to play a new game or tried a different retrospective style, and everyone's been, oh, I don't want to do that. Often they appreciate the creativity, they welcome it because it just mixes things up, it keeps things fresh. So feel free to have a go, and I would always encourage anyone to share anything they create. I'm very community driven myself. I'm often creating content, making it freely accessible. That's one of my personal values. Nothing I create will be behind a paywall. So I encourage you guys to get involved, try gamification, and share what you discover, what you create, what you learn with everyone else. Any questions from anyone?
Can I have a copy of this board?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So how can I have it?
If you're a Miro user, what I'll do is I can download a copy of this as a backup. So it will become a .rtb file, and then I can make that available. I'm not sure how to share it. Maybe I'll pass it on to, I guess, the host, and they can make it available to you guys. But it will essentially be just a file, a .rtb file that you can then upload into your own Miro instance.
Okay.
I can do that if anybody's interested. Just give me your contact info, and I'll put my email in there. And so you don't have to put it in the chat. If you want to put it in the chat, that's fine too. So I can contact you with that.
Yeah, and alternatively, if you guys want to connect with me personally on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. I can send it on to you individually rather than having to go through a middleman. Don't want to put any pressure on you.
Thank you.
Anything else anyone wants to add or talk about?
I'd like to say this was an amazing gamification, a learning experience. And up until now, I thought games were a little bit restrictive in their scope, and you couldn't gamify everything. But now I see that there's a really broad palette of games available for all different topics. And it seems to be more up to your imagination than any type of restrictions. So I'm a little bit motivated to use this a little bit more with our consulting, with our events, and at work even. So thank you very much, Chris.
No problem. Happy to help. I said a little bit of creativity goes a long way. I did a virtual town hall just before Christmas where I had people creating their own little Christmas gingerbread cookies with little images and beer mugs and all sorts of things like that. So creating their own, I had them designing a Christmas tree with their favorite movies and blah, blah, blah. There's all sorts you can do with a virtual whiteboard and a little bit of creativity. You can just make things a little different.
What about learning about Miro itself or other tools which enable this gamification? How would you suggest going about that?
So I've led a workshop called Magic with Miro, and I've got a YouTube recording of that on my YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to watch that, that's where I share some of my top tips for how to create workshops using Miro.
That's excellent. I will be checking that out. So that's on your YouTube channel.
It is. Let me
And you can send that off to William as well.
I think we can post that right here in the chat.
yeah, I'm just going to share a link to it in the chat now.
Good.
There's I do a lot of these kind of events, and I often record them. In fact, every 2 weeks I host a meetup called the Agile Arcade, and it's a bit like what we've done tonight. I allow people to select from a series of games, and then I facilitate those games. And there's on my YouTube channel, there's recordings of some of those games. So there's lots more out there than just what you've seen today. Okay, channel's there. And I'll share my LinkedIn profile as well. There we go. Now look. Oh, there we go. I'm gonna find. Okay, right. So last thing, I'm always keen to capture feedback from people as to how they thought this event went. That allows me to alter it, tailor it, make sure it's better next time I do them. So if you wouldn't mind, in true Valentine's theme, I've created lots of little candy hearts here. If you double click where it says change me, you can share thoughts or feedback about what you liked about this event, what you didn't like, what you'd like to see more or less of. I'd very much appreciate your feedback.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't get where that was. Is that back on Miro or?
Yes, it's back on Miro. I've brought everyone to where we are on the screen. You'll see a little section called feedback, and there's lots of these little candy hearts. If you double click any of the change me's, then you can type what your thoughts were. And again, I'm very thick skinned, so if you thought it was awful, let me know. I'll do better next time. Just realised these parts aren't very easy to see when you type inside them, are they? That's an area of feedback just for myself. I will work on speaking slower. I do apologize. I have a habit of getting excited and talking very quickly. Definitely something for me to work on. What I'll do for anyone who wants to get involved in more gamification sessions, I'll share the link to the Agile Arcade sessions that I host, and you guys can join any of those events if you would like to play more games. I'll share that in the chat channel as well. That's the last one. It's called the Agile Arcade Serious Gaming Group. Okay, Any last questions from anyone? Any closing statements from the hosts?
Good. I'd like to thank you very much, Christopher Stone, for this amazing gamification. It was not a presentation so much as a workshop. It was really involved, as you promised. And I think it did get the message across to me within 1 hour of how gamification can let you focus on an issue at hand and get that learning experience. I think we've all had a chance to ask our questions, and we've got all the links and contacts. I'll just make one round robin request. If there are any other comments any of our participants have, I'll open it up for a minute here. And
Thank you. That was great. Enjoyed it.
thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, it was very good. I see the value in it now.
Cool. You got your message across, Christopher. The next step is anybody actually going to use it, implement it? I'm going to put it on my to-do list on the Kanban, and that will be staring me in the face. I'm going to try and talk to my boss and see what he thinks about gamification. If that comes across as a, oh, okay, well, let's try that. Or no, we're in a serious job here. Let's let's not talk about gamification because my boss won't like it when he hears it. I think they'll be quite receptive to it, so I'm going to give it a shot.
I mean, I find if you can get past the leadership barrier, the people who you deliver it to, they love it. I'm always getting thanked for making learning about this fun and engaging and interactive. So I find people enjoy it far more than perhaps leadership might expect. And ultimately, it's down to the audience, really. And if an important topic like technical debt or outcomes versus outputs is understood and it results in change, that's the important thing.
Good words. And with that, I'm going to say thank you to you and thank you to everybody and close the session.
It was a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
In the evening.
Thank you very much.
Can we access the recording of the session?
I don't think we'll have a recording available for public, but we are going to be working on this and create a white paper, as I mentioned at the beginning.
Okay.
If you're interested in hearing any more about that, just drop me an email. My contact info is in the chat. And otherwise, just keep your eyes on this channel. We'll be keeping people updated about the status of the white paper, which will be coming in the next month or two, I believe.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you. Everything good for everybody? KB?
See you, Will.
All good. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining. Have a great day.